So the Sensoterra index is expressed in the app as SI. So now let's get started with the key to interpret the Sensoterra index and the PF data. So let's have a look. If you look at your left side from this slide, you're going to see the key, which is this orange, green, and blue parts. So within this key, we are working with two different methods. First of all, we have the PF on the left side. And if you look at the right side, you're going to see the Sensoterra index. So let's get started with both of them in separate explanations. So first, the PF. As we talked before, the PF, so the water retention capacity, will go from a scale from 0 to 7, as you see there, PF from 0 to 7. From the PF 0 to the PF 2, you have the too wet range, so the blue part that you see there. From the PF 2 to the PF 4, you have the healthy range, so the available water range that you need to keep your crop in to have healthier soils. So you are respecting the water necessities from your crop if you keep your irrigation schedules within this healthy zone, which is the green part. Inside the healthy zone, you also have the productive zone. So the best setting points that you can keep your irrigation schedules when considering a healthy crop, a healthy soil based on your soil moisture data. So the productive zone would go from PF2 to PF 2.5. This is the range that we want to keep our irrigation thresholds there. Also, following the sequence that we see there, we have the PF4 to PF7. So the orange part representing when it's too dry. So when your soil has lower values of soil moisture. This is not what we want. Now that we explained about the PF, so the water retention capacity, on the left side, you have the Sensoterra index on the right side, which goes from 0 to 10. So at 0, you have the oven dry soil. So it's the same as representing the PF7, which means that your soil is too dry. From 0 to 3.3, you have the too dry zone. From 3.3 to 6.6, this is the zone, again, the healthy zone that you want to keep your irrigation thresholds to maintain healthy soils. And from 6.6 to 10, you have the too wet zone. So as you see there, you can work with two different methods that will give you better results to interpret your soil moisture data. So you can work with the Sensoterra index, or you can work with the PF values. So the Sensoterra index is defined by soil moisture characteristics, which differ between soil types. So it's very important to say that even though we have the PF and the Sensoterra index scales, this will differ per soil type and per crop type. This is really important to highlight here. But of course, these are really useful tools that you can work with when measuring soil moisture data with Sensoterra sensors. So again, the 10 will represent complete saturation, so PF 0. 6.6 will represent the maximum amount of water that soil can hold. So the field capacity, which is PF 2, and from 6.6 to 3.3, this will be your healthy zone in the Sensoterra index. 3.3 would be the point at which plants begin to wilt permanently through drought. So the wilting point is the PF 2.5 to 3. Plus minus 2 represents the permanent wilting point, so PF 4.2. Also a too dry zone. 0 represents the oven dry soil, and the oven dry represents PF equals 7. So the Sensoterra index creates 3 different regions. So the too wet zone, the healthy zone, and the too dry, which are the same across all soil types. But again, this will differ based on crop types and soil types for the volumetric water content. Here, we have the volumetric soil moisture content, so expressed in percent values. So again, on the left side, we have the key, just the key for you to understand. Again, orange is the too dry zone. Green will be the healthy zone, so where we want to keep our irrigation regimes. The too wet, which is the blue part. And then you have the saturation point. So after the too wet, you have a maximum water holding capacity for each soil. This saturation point will differ, but this is the maximum amount of water that your soil can hold. And in gray, you see the solid soil fraction. So for the orange, healthy, and too wet, so the 3 colored zones, we are talking about water content percentages in the soil. And for the gray part, we are talking about the solid soil fraction. So this is a measurement that we don't want to talk about in this section. Just focus on the too dry, healthy, and too wet zones. So for example, peat will have, for peat soils, so soil texture, we have from 0 to 22% of soil moisture represents the too dry zone. From 22% to 63%, then you have the healthy zone. So you can see there that based on soil moisture measurements, you can keep your healthy zones between 22% and 63%. After, from 63% to 83%, you have the too wet zone. So you know where to maintain your thresholds from 22 to 63, which is the available water range in the soil. Let's say for sand, for example, sandy soils will be different. They have a lower water holding capacity and higher drainage rates. So what we see for sand is that from 0 to 2%, you have the too dry. From 2 to 10%, you have the healthy zone. From 10 to 40%, you have the too wet zone. Being 40% the saturation point of your sandy soils. So you see that with the volumetric soil moisture content, you start to understand in percentages how is your soil reacting to the irrigation amounts that you are giving. So how much water is your soil asking for? Now going to the examples. So different examples that you can understand and practice the Sensoterra index interpretation.